somebody. Get me a light. Thanks.
Good evening and welcome to the end of the world podcast.
As we know it.
Dramatic
Nice.
pause. There you go. Yeah. Hey, you ruined my dramatic pause, but that's okay
Oh,
because you're not feeling well. So
I was
Travis
gonna say.
Travis is down with the sickness. We'll just get to the the important part up front.
I was gonna do like the ape noise thing that he does,
Uh-huh.
but I think that might kill me. Yeah. I don't think I could do it right now.
Sometimes I feel like I'm shit out of
My
whack.
head
That
my
whole
head
thing.
might explode if I try.
That's fair,
Yeah.
It's there's like we talked about with the Omega Man, there are stages to the sickness. You're not quite there yet. Give it a couple days.
My hair's turning white,
Yeah,
Actually, that
dude.
is happening in real life.
My hair's been white. My hair only comes in white now.
Yeah.
I've been dodging David Draymond and the Disturbed like an expert at this point. I've been masking up since the start of January.
Yeah.
Just in the precautions. I am a teacher, and there's a
Oh, yeah.
lot of sickness that comes around. Even then, I haven't been able to dodge it 100%. Came down with COVID myself in between January and
Yeah.
February, so kind of
Yep.
happened to me too. But I've been dodging the flu at least right now, so kind of trying to hang in there.
Yeah, really.
And hopefully, my wife is also doing the same. She's also been having to interact with the public a lot more recently.
Mhm.
So we're both trying to dodge the
Yeah.
the sick public around, and
Well,
it's
and plus news today, sickness is going to become a big thing probably.
yeah. Robert Kennedy, good old brain worm himself,
Yep.
getting approved there. Kind of everything.
Ah.
I mean, no one really broke
I
ranks
mean,
except for Mitch McConnell. It was to be expected. They
no,
are fully on board with the Trump train. Why should they
it's
not be?
why wouldn't they be?
So I don't think anyone's coming to save us, so to speak.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to save ourselves to get out of this pickle we found ourselves in. Speaking of pickles, my week was not really all that interesting. Kind of
Yeah.
a little bit of a return to normalcy. Last week, I said like most of my classes were empty. This week is a little bit more normal, so kind of a little bit kind of returning to a bit to normalcy there. Still some conversations in the air amongst everyone involved, but hey, what are you gonna do? I think
really.
this movie will get us far enough away from politics here because there's not a lot of connections to be made to modern
Yeah.
politics. Maybe we'll find them though. Last time I didn't think going into Code. Sorry, I keep wanting to say Omega Man, which is a different movie we reviewed. I keep wanting to say that, like, that movie, I also didn't expect there to be so many connections to modern politics, and it turned out to be rife with so. This one, I think, is a little different. So let's go ahead and talk about our movie for tonight. It goes by two titles: Beware the Blob and Son of Blob. Both are cute little titles.
Very cute titles.
Neither was its original name. So
oh well,
we'll talk about its original name as we get to that.
Yeah.
Movie came out on June 21st, 1972. Direct sequel to the first Blob, which came out in 1958. So kind of picking up from where that one left off, and we'll talk about the connections to the two of them as we go on. There are a few, but not as many as you maybe would think.
Okay.
So what do you want to start with this? You want to get into the cast? You want to get into the background? How do you want to approach this motherfucker here?
This well, I say let's beware the background.
All right. So this movie is brought to us by a producing son, a son named Anthony Harris, and he is the son of Jack Harris. Jack Harris is the producer of the original Blob, which was Steve McQueen's first leading role back in 1958. So kind of the movie that shot Steve McQueen into a little bit more of a stardom, was a very typical B movie of the 1950s in that it had a very, very low budget, around $110,000. Ended up making $4 million, so was quite successful. The plot. Have you ever seen the original Blob from the 1950s?
I feel like I have, but I don't. I was so much younger, and it has was just one of those things.
Yeah, I was gonna say it has a lot in common with a lot of other 1950s sci-fi. It's I would say it's a classic staple of 1950s sci-fi. If you were going to do if you were going to do like an all-night stream of 1950s B movie sci-fi movies, then this would definitely be one of them. Shit, if it's in the public domain, I might do that one night. You should do like a 12-hour stream on our YouTube page of just a bunch of like public domain 1950s sci-fi B movies, and just kind of let people who want to come in enjoy the stream. You know, kind of like an all night long drive-in movie theater kind of a thing. That's my idea. This would be perfect in that, because it's about an alien organism landing on Earth from a meteorite. Of course, Steve McQueen's like, in high school driving, Billy Badass kind of thing. Very similar to the plot of this one, except played more for like, less laughs. But 15 years later, this movie came out. This movie cost somewhere between $150,000 to $240,000 is what this movie cost.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And it ended up losing $18,000. So just barely not turning a profit.
Wow.
Just barely. So getting back to Anthony Harris. So Jack Harris, like I said, he produced the first Blob. It turned a massive fortune on it. $110,000 investment, $4 million return on that investment. Nice.
Yeah.
1970s rolls around. His son, Anthony, has just graduated from USC. He's looking to get into the film world, and he says, "Dad, I'm a nepo baby, and I would love for you to help me out." And Dad says, "Sure, son. It's just about time the world gets a Blob too, huh, motherfucker?" So that is the idea, was to make a sequel to the Blob. So where do you turn to for a director when Dad is only going to give you about $140,000? That's all he's got to give.
Yeah.
Where are you going to turn for your director and your cast? You're going to turn to your next door neighbor, because that's what he did. So Anthony Harris, his next door neighbor, was the director of this movie, Larry Hagman, who would, of course, go on to achieve fame in the role of
J.R. Ewing?
J.R. Ewing, yes.
Yeah, that's right. I wasn't sure I remembered that right.
That same motherfucker. The living, breathing soul of Dallas, which is a TV show I grew up
to a certain point.
Up to a certain point. Spoiler. You just ruined the show for so many. There's a lot of millennials out there that desperately want to watch Dallas. I didn't.
Oh yeah.
Actually, I've watched Dallas.
I have never watched Dallas.
It's pretty fucking entertaining. I'm not gonna lie.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's pretty entertaining. It's pretty entertaining. I cannot lie. I cannot say that it's bad. It is pretty entertaining. It's not necessarily what I would say good. I wouldn't give it a strong recommendation for a TV show. But if you've never watched Dallas and you're looking for like a deep dive of something, and you don't mind a little cringe, I think Dallas is fine. Yeah. So that Larry Hagman, who was J.R. Ewing in Dallas, which is his biggest credit, which would come a couple years after this movie. He was the next door neighbor of Anthony Harris, and he also stars in this movie. He's one of the homeless guys he's the young homeless guy of the three of them.
Almost didn't recognize him.
Yeah. He decided to direct this movie, and he agreed to get most of his friends to do it, and that's who makes up most of the cast.
Yeah, I get the idea they weren't paid in money, if you dig.
Yeah, so a lot of them, as you can kind of tell, were real big hippies, and that's
Oh,
kind of the nature of this movie. It is a
yep.
big hippie movie, and I did not necessarily know that going into it,
No.
but yeah, it is a big, big, big hippie movie. So before directing this movie, he had actually never even seen the original. So Anthony
Oh,
Harris brought over a copy of it because his dad owns it. He produced it. He
well,
brings a
yeah.
copy over to his neighbor and he's like, "Hey, let's watch The Blob." And so I imagine they just got fucking massively stoned
Oh,
and
yeah.
watched The Blob. And then Larry Hagman was like, "Shit, I got wire. I can make a sequel to this for like $140,000." And he was like, "Sold." And that I imagine is how the movie got made.
Mm-hmm.
That's my long and short of how this movie came to be. And the cast of this movie is pretty much just like I said, just a lot of his friends, and the cast is fucking sprawling. Like almost everyone in this movie, even people who were only in this movie for like a scene, just a
Hmm.
scene, ended up they were in like tons of TV shows. They were in like,
Yeah.
Dallas or Bonanza, or they showed up in Batman or Star Trek. There's a
Uh-huh.
lot of Star Trek connections in this movie where a lot of these actors and directors ended up in Star Trek. Or
Oh,
not directors, sorry. Actors and actresses and producers and writers kind of also
huh.
found themselves doing stuff in the Star Trek universe.
Okay, see, I'd have to have them pointed out for me. I never watched the show. I only watched the movies.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
fair enough. Fair enough. So speaking, we will talk about the movies later on as well.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to the cast here in a minute. So let's talk a little bit about the Blob series. So there have been
Yeah.
three Blob movies total. The original in 1958, this one in 1972, and one more, the remake in 1988, which is directed by Chuck Russell and is kind of a
Mhm.
cult classic in its own little way.
Yeah, I
People
was
seem
gonna
to
say,
like that one.
I think that's the one I've seen for sure.
Yep. So total all of the Blob movies cost $12 million, with most of that money going to the one from '88.
Yeah.
Would you like to know how much money all of the Blob movies together have made? All three of them.
Oh yeah, desperately.
19 million negative.
What?
Yeah, all three of them together are $19 million in the hole.
Holy shit. That shocks me actually, because
Yeah.
who hasn't
Well,
heard of the
so
Blob?
so the Blob made $4 million. So that one turned a profit. This one lost
Yeah.
money, and the
Yeah.
one from '88 lost a lot of money.
Oh. I guess people weren't
Since
as excited for it as they thought.
No, apparently not. But like I said, it has kind of retained a cult status in its own respect, the '88 one. But that didn't necessarily make it many money. So
Huh.
that is what the research tells me. But in spite of that, there are attempts to revisit the Blob.
I'm I
So
think
in
I think that's fair.
Yep.
I think we could be due.
Well, so Anthony Harris, the producer, he had a sequel in mind as well, which was going to be called Curse of the Blob. But
Oh.
that one never got made. Um,
Yeah, that just the title alone.
Other sequels that were attempted in 2009, Rob Zombie was kind of thought about to do a sequel.
Oh.
That never happened.
I don't know how
Um,
he would take on that one, because you can't really have like a psychopathic blob or something, like
his wife
doing
would have been in
quips
it.
and
His wife
well,
definitely would have been in
absolutely.
it. And somewhere, his wife would be doing something, and then the Blob probably would eat her. I'm guessing.
Oh, of course.
Something along those lines. Yeah, yeah.
It would be a real departure
Rebellious
for him.
teens, rebellious teenagers of
Yeah.
some sort. That's my take. If Rob Zombie did it, in 2015, Simon West was kind of thought of to do a version. I
Mhm.
don't know if you're familiar with him, but he directed like Con Air, Tomb Raider.
Oh,
He also directed
that
the "I
that
Never
could have
Want to
been
Give
good.
You Up" music video.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, he's that guy.
Yeah,
He's the
he could
director behind
have.
the Rick roll.
I think he could have been pretty good at that.
Yeah, that one also did not happen. And
Yeah.
then in 2024, David Bruckner was considered to be right now is considering, I guess, is the next in line to revamp the Blob series. He is the guy who did The Signal. He's done some of the VHS movies, and he did the Hellraiser remake recently.
Okay. I didn't know that was remade. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah. That one was a remake there. So that is kind of a little bit of the history, although the Blob has kind of begun to have a life unto itself outside of its own movie genre. So some allusions to the Blob, if you will. 1958, H-Man, Japanese movie with a very similar plot. There's one for you, Dom, if you've never reviewed H-Man. There's a monster movie for you. We're kind of tiptoeing into Dom's territory here, right?
Yeah, we are.
In 1959, the Italian movie, which was also very similar to this movie or to the Blob movie in general, was called The Immortal Monster Kathiki.
Oh, Lord.
Once again, never seen that one. That's an Italian movie from 1959. Another movie that has kind of like a similar theme-ish to this movie is from 1988, Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Oh,
kind
okay.
of plays off a similar, like, the adults not believing the kids, kind of whole thing.
Yeah.
And then the Blob himself has kind of like appeared in one shape or form in Hotel Transylvania, Monster vs. Aliens, and the video games and movies and TV shows there and whatnot. They all kind of have like a little Blob character. So he's kind of been adopted into the monster universe in kind of a way.
It makes sense because, I mean, can you think of a scarier monster than just this thing that's just eating things and you can't shoot it, you can't talk to it, you can't do anything, you can't
reason with it.
Yeah.
You know what you can do though? You can make it ice cold, baby.
There it is.
Ice cold.
Put on some Foreigner, Cold as Ice.
What's colder than being cold? Ice cold. So that's a little bit about the background. Let's get into the cast. Our cast is massive. We're not going to talk about all of them because it would take us literally forever.
Oh, yeah.
So this movie is the only movie that JR from Dallas ever directed. And in fact, they would end up, whenever this movie came out on, I think, VHS in 1982, it was re-released. They re-released it with the tagline, "The movie that JR shot," to play off of the whole play off the whole like thing there. Yeah. There you go. Little something there. Here's who wrote this movie, although the writers don't really matter because according to some of the actors involved, they basically just threw the script out day one and just were like, improv, do whatever you want. And you can tell that in the movie.
Oh, that's the first thing I noticed.
The movie is very loose with its direction, its acting, its everything. It's just kind of like
much,
do whatever, have fun.
I think they were wanting to go for a more natural thing, but what ended up happening was, to me, it felt very much like people trying to seem natural, but like failing. It was kind of painful in certain spots.
Yeah. So the people that wrote this movie are both actually more known for being musicians and working in the sound department for movies. The first one is Jack Woods, who would go on to do the sound for several different Star Trek movies. He wrote this movie, and he also wrote another movie called Equinox. They came out in 1970.
That sounds familiar.
I was going to say, it is actually another sci-fi movie that used to play alongside this movie at the drive-in, at late-night drive-ins back in the day.
Oh, okay. I mean,
yeah, they kind of paired Equinox with this movie. Kind of like a sister movie with it. He wrote this movie alongside Anthony Harris, who is also a musician. And he kind of also would do the sound for John Cassavetes' movie, The Killing of a Chinese Bookie.
Really?
Yeah. So kind of like I said, a lot of musicians kind of getting involved. And Anthony Harris was also the producer of The Child that we talked about from USC. Yeah. So kind of a connection there. And this was based off
musician, nepo-baby, all of them.
Yes. This was kind of his chance to kind of get his foot in the door, so to speak. And he was basing this off of a story idea that he is borrowing from two places. First, his producer father, Jack Harris, who was the producer of the original Blob, which also he kind of helped shape some of the ideas for. And a story idea by Richard Clare, who was mostly an actor who only ever came up with a story idea for this one movie. And his idea was actually called Chip Off the Old Blob. So that kind of gives you an idea of like the tone of the movie and kind of what they were going for. Because this movie is a horror movie in a couple of senses, but is way more in a way more of a comedy.
Way more. It was very camp, very like
yes,
very of its time, you know, like
yes. So let's get into our actual actors and actresses. Our hero, Bobby, is played here by Robert Walker, who is probably mostly well known for this movie and Easy Rider. He has a little cameo in Easy Rider.
Oh, okay.
Also did a bunch of other. That. Yeah, he was kind of a big in hippie movies in the time.
Yeah.
But he also did a bunch of like movies and TV shows. Eventually retired from acting, but the place I know him from the most, and hopefully if anyone's listening out there, some of the millennials or Gen Xers or Gen Zers, our audience is kind of like a kind of evenly split across the spectrum. I've noticed of like people like 50 to like 60, people 30 to 40, and people like 20 to 30. So there's kind of like an even split there.
Oh yeah, so there's people just listening to the old men.
Yes, exactly.
Complaining about.
And then other people are like, yeah, I know what the fuck they're talking about. And other people are like, what the fuck are they talking about? And then other people So if you're wondering, I'm gonna tell you what the fuck we're talking about. He played Charlie in Star Trek season 1, episode 2, one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek. It's the one where they find the kid who has like telepathic powers, who can control things. And it's a really, really good episode. It's also, I looked this up, it's the first episode where 3D chess is shown up. So season 1, episode 2, if you've never watched the original Star Trek, watch that episode. It is a classic. And Charlie there is playing the same actor here, plays our hero Bobby in this movie. Played Charlie in Star Trek. So that's what I know him from the most. As soon as I saw him in this, I was like, is that fucking that dude from Star Trek? I looked it up and I was like, it is. And I was like, all right, that makes sense. So
well, that's cool.
Playing his girlfriend in this movie, Lisa, this would be her first movie, is Gwen Guilford. She is the daughter of Anne Gwyn. Anne Gwyn is one of the OG kind of horror movie scream queens. So she appeared back in the day in Black Friday, The Black Cat, Murder in the Blue Room, House of Frankenstein, Teenage Monster. So a lot of like 40s and 50s kind of horror movies.
I know these names.
Yeah. So this was actually her first movie, but not her last. She would also go on to star in Masters of the Universe. There's one for you.
Oh, okay.
Satan's School for Girls. There's one for me. Fade to Black. And she was also, this is where we tie in more to Star Trek. She is the mother of Chris Pine.
Wait. Yeah. Like real life?
In real life, she is the mother of Chris Pine. So the Captain Kirk in the Star Trek movies and the reboot. Yeah, his mom is this lady right here that plays Lisa in this movie. This was her first movie.
Far out.
Yep. Yeah.
Dude,
so
that rules.
Like I said, a lot of the cast have like weird connections to classic Star Trek, modern Star Trek, Batman, Bonanza. Like, it's very much like you can tell Larry Hagman, he had a lot of friends in Hollywood. Like he knew a lot of people who were like, yeah, I'll come and do your movie. Yeah. We're just going to roll some weed up and smoke it. Right. And then, they had some fun because that's kind of what it looks like in this movie.
That's it. All
so the local businessman that they terrorize is played here by Richard Stahl, who would play in a really good movie called 5 Easy Pieces. I don't know if you've ever seen that one. Jack Nicholson. Yeah, that movie's really, really good. Richard Stahl would also be in Billy Jack, High Anxiety, 9 to 5.
Oh, okay.
Bunch of TV shows too.
Yeah. Okay, I'm picturing him now. I was like, I don't know if I can place this guy, but I get it. Yeah. Especially when you say High Anxiety, I'm like, oh, I remember him there.
Yeah. The sheriff, who is kind of a joke, is played by Richard Webb, who
Yeah.
was the star of the 1950s TV show Captain Midnight, and
Hmm.
also played in a bunch of TV westerns.
He had a very Western look to him.
Mhm. So his life is kind of weird because he, in
Oh.
addition to starring in TV westerns, he also starred in a lot of sci-fi shows in the 50s and 30s and 40s. Maybe
Huh.
not so much in the 30s, but definitely in the 40s and 50s is kind of when he hit his prime of kind of being involved in a lot of these TV shows and radio programs that he was kind of doing. He also
Hmm.
wrote several books, most of them about the occult.
Oh.
And in 1993, he killed himself.
Oh.
So he was been struggling. He was struggling with the disease for a while, and
Oh.
just decided to kill himself in 1993. So interesting guy.
Yikes.
Like he wrote four
Yeah.
books about the occult. So kind of like had a
Hmm.
whole other thing going on when it came to what he was into outside of Hollywood stuff.
That's pretty far out.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So that's kind of it for like the main cast. There's a lot of other people involved that show up in little bits and pieces. So we have Marlene Clark is the actress at the beginning, the Blob's first
Hmm.
victim.
Oh yeah.
She was a model who would actually be married to Billy D. Williams for a while.
Awesome.
Cindy Williams shows up as one of the hippies.
Hmm.
Larry Norman, Larry Hagman himself shows up as one of the homeless people. Burgess Meredith
Yeah.
shows up as one of the homeless people, and then Dick Van Patten shows
Dick
up
Van
as
Patten. Once
as
I
the
saw him, I was like,
scout.
oh shit.
Yeah. And then Garrett Graham also is in this movie. Garrett Graham is the second victim of the Blob, the guy that brought the Blob home to
Yes.
defrost.
Yeah.
And yeah, Garrett Graham has a crazy fucking life. He actually starred in the Watermelon Man. Have you ever seen that one?
No.
So the Watermelon Man, I believe it also stars James Earl Jones, but it's a
Hmm.
1970 movie about a white guy who wakes up and finds himself that he has turned out black.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a social satire. It's a very funny movie.
Hmm.
And in addition to doing kind of a lot of those, he kind of did a lot of stand up, a lot of social satire stand up kind of things.
Yeah.
He was actually the first person, him and Maya Angelou, who I got to meet when I was in college. Um,
Oh, you
they,
never told me that.
yeah, well, now you know.
Now
Um,
I know. Yeah.
yeah, she came and did a speech at the college when there for a minute. I got since I was in the poetry club, since they organized
Yeah.
it, I got to be like, hey, take a picture, and there she is. It's
Hell
cool.
yeah, dude.
I didn't get to talk to her for long, I just said hello,
But
hello,
hey.
you know. Anyway, she and him, they helped put on Martin Luther King Jr.'s first like big speech in New York City.
Awesome.
So another interesting guy. Kind of,
Yeah.
unrelated to what he's doing in acting.
Yeah. That's
Uh,
really cool. Like
and
I
then
like that this like a lot of these layers just coming from this kind of thrown together.
yeah,
Like
yeah. And then Tiger Joe Marsh is the naked like Russian Turkish guy that kind of runs
oh
around
yeah.
in the middle part of the movie. He is actually a pro wrestler, kind of
Oh yeah.
famously before that, but he was also the original Mr. Clean.
Okay.
So yeah.
I can see it.
So yeah,
Huh.
there's kind of a little bit about our cast and a little bit about the actors and directors that kind of made up this movie. An interesting little group of people, I gotta say. Like
Yeah,
maybe one of the
absolutely.
more diverse casts that we've kind of ever seen
Hmm.
in any of the movies that we've looked at up to this point, especially from the 70s. We haven't really gotten into the 70s too much. So this will be kind of a fun one
Yeah. Well,
to get to.
and it's maybe one of probably my favorite decade of movies
Hmm.
is the 70s. I love 70s movies. Like one of
Yeah.
my favorite movies of all time is Car Wash from it's
Yeah.
a little later, but
Yeah.
I
That
love
is a
that
good one.
movie.
That is a good one. Speaking of that, Garrett Graham appeared in some Bill Cosby stuff too. So, So,
Hey, when
speaking
that was a
of
okay thing to do.
yeah, there's a connection to some Richard Pryor and some Bill Cosby and
Yeah.
all of those big 70s comedians were all kind of
Yeah.
interlaced together. So,
Oh yeah.
speaking of interlaced together, this is where last week we attempted to do our little jingle where I took Power Man 5000 When Worlds Collide. Well, then they copyright strike the video, so I can't.
Of
I'm not going to
course.
use. I'm not going to use them. So I'm either going to place a different song, or just not. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
And here's where
Edit
we get into the public domain.
edit as necessary. Speaking of editing as necessary, Travis, are you ready to play the Travis trivia?
I am.
Okay, because this is this one's going to be interesting. 1972.
Oh yeah.
All right,
I
so do
I
you
think I'll
want me
do a little
to?
better, maybe. Well, I may not do better. I
Okay, well,
still have.
I have hints to give you right off the bat, right?
Okay.
Because I think you need them. So,
Yeah.
number 4 is a kind of a one-hit wonder.
Ooh.
Okay. Number
Oh boy.
number 3 is an instrumental.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Number 2 was ranked as his 5th best song by his fans.
Huh.
Number 1 was the only number 1 hit of his career.
Oh man.
And number 5 is a staple of comedy songs and movies alike. Comedy movies galore. It's been in tons and tons and tons of movies
Oh man. I think I'm more farther away than I.
than you ever thought about before, huh? Well,
Honestly, yeah, I was like, oh, okay. I might have had a better chance in the late '90s on this one. Oh
I'll give you
man.
a moment to think.
I mean, I'm gonna say maybe like Don McLean.
No Don McLean. No,
No
no,
Don
no, no,
McLean.
no Don
Okay.
McLean here. No Don McLean.
And I'm trying to think what would. See, I don't know. I've been listening to a lot of more like folk music lately, so things like Jim Croce are what I'm thinking of, and that's
Yeah.
I know that.
Well, so you're not too off with folky. It's kind of one of his more like folkier songs. He's kind of
Hmm.
more known for his pop music, but he kind of did a lot of different stuff. He's a
Oh.
Renaissance man.
Oh, I'm so in the weeds here. I'm gonna say Elton John, but I feel like I'm wrong.
Okay, number 2 was Neil Diamond.
He did a folky song?
He kind of did. Have you ever heard Song Sung Blue?
I don't think I have.
Yeah, apparently that is what the number 2 song in the nation was, Song Sung Blue. It's kind of it's a sad song about sad songs. So it's kind of a
Hmm.
down tempo Neil Diamond.
Interesting.
Neil Diamond in his feelings, if you will.
Yeah.
And ranked as his 5th best song amongst a lot of his fans, according to
Wow.
the ChatGPT that I asked.
Oh, there you go. Turns out I may not be much of a Neil Diamond fan because I don't have a ranking of his songs.
Well,
So
neither do I. I can't say I'm a big Neil Diamond fan either, but here we are.
I know a couple of songs, and that's
All right,
about it.
number 3 and number 4, I think you have no chance at because I
Probably.
don't think you would ever get them. So number 3 is "Out of Space," which is a Billy Preston instrumental, which won the Grammy in 1972 for Best Instrumental. "Out of
Honestly,
Space."
instrumental on that one, I was gonna just guess like something. Oh, oh man, I forgot his name all of a sudden. He did instrumentals a lot. Zappa, Frank Zappa.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
See, that
no,
was gonna be my guess.
no Zappa. No, no. See,
No.
if I was on the other end in one of these episodes, we'll have to flip it, and you have to quiz me.
Oh yeah.
But I would have gone with like Herbie Hancock or something like that.
Oh
Like, thinking
yeah.
like some 70s jazz shit or something. But no,
Yeah.
we both have been wrong. Number 4 is kind of a one-hit wonder. They actually had a couple other hits, but they didn't really get
Mhm.
anywhere near this high. This was Gallery with the song "Nice to Be With You," which is kind of like a nice classic sunshine pop, inoffensive
Yeah.
70s song, not gonna hurt
I'm
anyone's feelings.
I may not know that one.
I
I
didn't
may
know
have
it
heard
until I
it,
listened
but
to it. I didn't know it until I put
oh,
it on and be like, "What is
it's
this song?" And then I was like, "Okay, I've heard this in a movie once or twice before." But I was like, "All right, it's fine. It's
oh, okay.
inoffensive.
So
It's
it's
fine."
probably something may have heard.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
So number 5 is the Staple Singers. Any guesses the song?
Nope.
Okay, it's "I'll Take You There."
Oh, okay. Yes, I do know that song.
Yeah, there you go. I was gonna say you've seen that in movies and TV
Oh,
shows
yeah.
galore. Yeah, yeah. And number
Okay.
one, the artist is Sammy Davis Jr. Do you know his only number one hit? He hated this song.
Is it Candyman
It was
or
Candyman. Yes.
yeah? I didn't know he
Candyman was
hated
the
that.
number one song in the country. Yeah, he thought it was a piece of shit, apparently, upon recording it. He was like, that's trash. And it took off, and he was just like, God damn, people, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, you can't predict what's gonna like take you places. Like what's gonna
It's
be
true.
the one. Like you
That's
could
true.
put all your effort into trying to make pet sounds or something, and it just do nothing. And then you do Candyman, and everybody's like, "Well, that's the one right there,"
Yeah. That'll do
But
it. That'll do. Yeah.
that, yeah. Well, I good for and also condolences to Sammy Davis Jr.
Yeah. Well, that is the end of the Travius trivia section. So
Yeah.
we're going to take a break and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the plot of Beware the Blob. And we'll see you guys in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this movie is extremely fucking hippie. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so let's talk about it. So the movie opens with a long opening scene of a cat doing cat stuff.
Yep.
So I put on my cinema snob glasses here, and clearly the cat doing cat stuff being juxtaposed with the never-ending death machine that is the Blob is clearly supposed to be an homage to the more distinct works of Susan Howe.
Oh yeah.
No, I think it's just cat doing. I think it's just cat doing cat shit. This is not the only iteration of the movie that would have this opening. So not all of the time would it open with cat doing cat stuff, as I jokingly kind of made the reference there.
Yeah.
In some versions, it actually opens with a construction site of just people doing stuff at a construction site.
Oh.
And that's supposed to explain, how he gets the canister of the blob. In
Would
either
make more
event,
sense.
yeah, in either event, the opening of the movie is just like a long scene of a cat doing cat. It's just being a cat.
Yeah.
Just cat doing cat stuff. Okay, I was curious if you got the cat version or if you got the construction version. I was gonna be like, it's gonna be very awkward if I'm like, the movie opens with a cat and you're like, the fuck it does. And
What?
I'm
Yeah,
like,
like all right. I was like,
yeah,
do you mean like in the 70s, like a
a
guy is
cool
a cat?
cat, a
He's
cool
like he's
cat.
cat. He's just doing cat things. I was like, I mean, I guess you could put it that way.
So after we get the whole cat thing, we then cut to the first like victims of the blob, which
Yep.
is this black couple in LA who he has just come back from the Arctic and he has the canister of the blob and
Yeah.
his wife is going to accidentally defrost it and it is going to kill the cat and then kill her. And this is like if a horror movie happened on the set of Sanford and Son, and this is where you
Yeah.
immediately can tell that there is no script.
Oh yeah,
It's
no.
just the
It was
camera is
just
rolling, and occasionally we'll just cut to some cat doing cat stuff, and it's just a
yeah.
close up of that. Sometimes it's just like a crash to like some lights that are cool looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of like you can tell the people who filmed this movie were fucked up on some drugs and
Oh,
we're just
absolutely.
having a good time with this person's money. And yeah, as you
Made me
said,
realize like
as you
I don't
implied earlier, I don't think they were paid in money.
no. And I also think I did a disservice because I watched this like unaccompanied, if you will. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know, I
I
think it
could
would have
see
helped.
that. Oh yeah, yeah. You definitely probably need some accompaniment to help you with this piece of
Oh
trash.
yeah. You got to
Although,
be
like
elevated.
I say that this movie, I didn't find the worst. I'm
It's
not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. It had its charms that I kind of appreciated.
there was I mean,
So
yeah, it was I've watched worse movies than this.
yeah. So the blob kills the cat, and then it kills its first human victim as the wife goes outside to look for the cat. That was our that's Billy D. Williams' wife. That was who
Yeah.
she was there. Yeah. And then we cut to some hippies getting ready for a party. And then we cut back to the house as we see him watching the original Blob on TV.
Yeah, that threw me. I was
Yeah,
like, wait.
so he's watching the Blob as the Blob is sneaking up behind him, getting ready to kill him. At this point, it's already killed his cat and his wife.
Yep.
Then we
Yeah.
cut to some hikers, some Boy Scouts being led by Dick Van Patten saying hi to Miss
'Cause
Clark.
That's who you know, when I think of survival skills, I think of Dick Van Patten.
As you
Like,
do, as you
the
do.
character actor of Dick Van Patten.
Yeah.
Uh,
So he's saying hi to Miss Clark and making this really kind of obnoxious way to the children that they have to say
Oh, yeah.
goodbye, Miss Clark. Yeah.
Goodbye, Miss Clark.
And this is where I wrote down that this movie kind of reminds me of Last House on the Left, the original. Have you ever seen that one from the 70s as well?
I haven't actually seen that one.
Okay, so it reminds me of
I have a
that.
hard time bringing myself to it.
Yeah, I understand. It reminds me of it in the sense that that movie, if you've seen it, is about like it's about kidnapping and murder and rape and then revenge, murder, kidnapping and rape.
Yeah.
Kind of flipping on the both sides of itself there. But at the same time, while that's happening, there's a subplot involving these kind of like bumbling country bumpkin police officers that are straight out of like, um like a Burt Reynolds film. And they just tonally don't really fit in the movie at all with Last House on the Left. That's kind of here as well, where there's just a lot of like weird tonal things that don't really make any sense.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because like the second kill that Chester, when he gets killed by the Blob and she walks in and you get that like dramatic camera cut and like the zoom in and zoom out, like it's kind of interesting. Like it's not the worst visual thing ever. It doesn't work. It kind of comes off across as more of like a laugh than anything else, but
Yeah.
at least they're trying something, you know. At least they're trying something. So anyway, we cut to some hippies doing hippie shit, and then the cop shows up, man, right? The man shows up.
The man.
And then the Blob shows up, which is clearly a metaphor for late stage capitalism, as the Blob absorbs both the hippie and the cop alike. It cares not for your politics, it only cares for your blood. Then we cut to a late night barber who is rather, as he calls himself, an artiste or a sculptor of hair.
Yeah, that was
charges 20.
Was,
yeah, it was weird.
That was the second time I realized, like after the first scene, you know, with the couple, and they're just talking about, you know, drinking beers and doing this stuff, and you know, like just I was like, I don't know what y'all are talking about, but then it just being just a little bit left of natural, you know.
Yeah.
The barbershop scene, fucking, I was like, all right, I don't think anybody knew what they were doing, and they were just going with it.
Yeah. So, like I said, apparently the script was thrown out day one, and they just were like, "Yeah, just improv. It's fine. Just do whatever."
That was the moment I realized, like, okay, there's no rails on this thing.
Yeah, that's kind of the movie we're getting into. So yeah, the barber charges 2025 haircut prices for a fucking haircut. He charges $400.
Yeah.
And as he gets ready to cut the hippie's hair, who apparently has $400 on him.
Yeah, apparently. Just, you know.
The Blob kills them both.
Yep.
There's that. So you're kind of getting the idea that this is kind of the premise of the movie. The Blob just kind of moves from set piece to set piece, killing different cameo characters that knew the director and the writer and the producer, and that's pretty much the premise of the movie here. We get our sheriff finally. He shows up and he thinks that the hippies are just having a bad trip, and so he kind of ignores their pleas for help.
He does a lot of ignoring.
He pretty much does all of the ignoring up until pretty much the very end of the movie. It's kind of consistent in that way. He's maybe my favorite character in this movie, just because he was kind of funny. At the very least, he was kind of funny. Even if it was unintentionally, at least it was kind of funny. Then we cut to some random Russian Turkish guy in a bathtub with his dog who is naked. And then the Blob comes in and kills the dog, and he gets up and runs out the window and just kind of runs around the town nude for a little while until he gets himself arrested. And then the hippie party finally starts.
Yeah.
And it looks like they're having a pretty fun time. And actually,
I mean,
a lot of the oh, go ahead.
There's a guy in a gorilla suit. How can you go wrong?
Exactly. So a lot of the hippies in this movie would actually go on to be in a lot of like Christian rock bands.
Okay, I was expecting anything else but that.
Yeah, a lot of the hippies would grow up to be kind of like a big deal in the Christian rock scene in the 80s and 90s. Yep, there you
How
go.
the hell?
Yeah. Hey, man. Maybe they're just in it for the money.
It takes all kinds. Oh, really?
I don't know. Who knows? So yeah, the party actually looks pretty fun, but then the main couple, Billy and Lisa, that are at the party, they then leave the party early. So we literally just went to that party for no fucking reason.
No reason. I mean,
like we spent like 3 minutes of screen time there.
Yeah, and she's understandably upset about being at this party. She doesn't want to be around. She doesn't want to deal with all the noise and all the people, and like she's just saw some really traumatic shit. Like she saw a dude getting eaten by the blob, even though nobody believes her. And it's like, the movie almost treats it like we shouldn't believe her. And it's like,
the movie is definitely not pro woman. It basically is just like Billy is just like, yeah, but it's fine. It's my birthday, girl, and we're gonna go. I need to go hang out with my hippie friends.
Yeah. Now he is cool, and he does.
He is
leave
cool
the
leaving
party.
early. But then that begs the question, why did we have to go and waste like 3 minutes of screen time at this fucking party? If you cut out that and cut out all the nonsense of people just rambling during their little segment and the 3, 4, 5 minutes of the cat doing random cat shit, like the movie would be like almost an hour long. So there's a lot that could be cut here. And
this is basically, extra fat the movie.
Yes,
like...
there's a lot you could get rid of here. A lot. So we cut to the police station who are hassling the nude Turkish guy.
Yeah.
And then we cut to a hippie couple ruining a guy's evening for the second time. So they keep fucking with this guy who runs the bowling alley, as we find out. Then we cut to some homeless men who are led by Burgess Meredith, who are just giving each other a hard time. And then the blob shows up and kills them all.
That was some good dialogue with the "I hate hippies," and you're
honestly,
a hippie, and you look like a hippie. And
this is another one of the like kill scenes that is actually kind of cool, kind of honestly, kind of interestingly filmed. Like it's shot from a downward perspective, and you get the shadows like kind of looming in the background as the blob kind of takes out the guys. It's like I can see how they shot the movie to save some money, and like I like it. It was kind of cool.
That was an interesting shot. We definitely nice. Give that one.
Yeah, it was not too bad. I kind of enjoyed it. Yeah. So then we cut to more hippies doing hippie stuff, and well, this is where the movie's. Like I told you at the beginning of the movie, it's very hippie. It's very much a hippie movie. Yeah. Kind of coming late into the hippiedom, 1972.
Yeah, it really is. I was like, it kind of
still
felt...
very hippie.
Yeah, they were still hanging on to it, So.
Yeah. Then Bobby finally gets his fucking birthday gift. So.
Oh yeah.
Congrats, Bobby.
Was it those pants or whatever?
It was a shirt or a jacket, I thought, right?
It was it? I couldn't remember exactly what it was.
It doesn't matter because the blob attacks them right afterwards.
Yeah.
But this is where we discover the blob's weakness, and this is why it's like, well, is the blob, the first one is just like on TV apparently. So maybe y'all should watch it because like the first one kind of spells out the blob's weakness pretty emphatically, that he doesn't like cold. So yeah, the air conditioning on Bobby's car kind of freaks out the blob and he leaves them alone.
That's right. Yeah, because because I guess they're climbing up on that thing because they're in the bowling alley now and they're trying to get everybody, clear. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry, I'm jumped ahead.
Yeah,
they find out. They find out
to the bowling alley really quickly. Yeah, like I said, they found out in the car, and then Bobby.
That's right. I jumped ahead.
it's more hippies do. All you literally missed was more hippies do obnoxious shit.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because
Bobby,
that one is just eating
Mhm.
the grossest. I don't even know what it is, and I don't care. I
Yeah,
just wanted it to stop.
then Bobby shows up and tries to call the cops, and they are like, "Yeah, whatever, we
Eh,
don't care." And then we get to the bowling alley, and this is when, yeah, like you said, we get to the bowling alley, and
yeah.
Lebowski and the crew are not gearing up to play Jesus inside, so
No,
it's not the most interesting bowling alley. But do you
it
know where
is
we would
not.
see? Do you know where we would see this bowling alley again?
Oh, I don't.
This is the exact same set they would use for Jackrabbit Slims in Pulp Fiction in 1994.
No shit.
Yeah, yeah, this is the bowling alley that they would use for that.
Far out. Okay, that's awesome.
Pretty nifty, huh?
That is. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. So this is where the bowling alley, we get our bowling alley scene. And this is, it's pretty, the bowling alley is fun. There's
Yeah.
not, it's kind of the major end of the movie is kind of when you get to the bowling alley because it's in the middle of getting renovated to turn into an ice skating rink, hence
Mm-hmm.
why the Blob, why they take it there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but no one really gives a shit that Bobby is
Yeah.
warning them about this Blob, no one
Yeah.
really cares.
The guy on the PA just gets like, "Hey, there's no danger, everybody. Sorry,
Yeah, yeah. This isn't Viet fucking Nam. There are rules, Bobby. Sit down. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up, Bobby.
It's just a bunch of it's a bunch of hippies being very hippie-ish, and then a
Very
bunch
hippie-ish.
of then there's like a couple of I guess I'm gonna use the word straight, and it's really just like Bobby and Lisa are like the straight ones that are just they're not characters, they're not cartoon,
Yeah.
they're the ones that are believable, I guess, and no one believes them. It's just a bunch of it's a very split thing with like the
Yeah.
hippies and the grown-up types, the
And that's
older, the
basically the premise of the entire movie is that like the
yeah.
hippies and the grown-ups don't get along. They don't believe each other. They don't see
Hmm.
eye to eye on anything. But in order to save the world, they're gonna have to work together, man.
Hippies and squares working
Eh,
together.
That's basically the premise of this movie. It's a
Yep.
pre-apocalyptic movie about hippies and squares working together to save the world. Because that's basically where we're headed to. Because the Blob is headed to the bowling alley. The police are headed to the bowling alley. The
Yeah.
Russian who was at the police station guy, he's refusing to leave because he doesn't want to go home. So he's
Yeah.
worried that
Fair.
the Blob is at his house, and he's like, "Fuck this shit."
Yeah, right? Makes sense.
So we cut back to the bowling alley and we see everything's going down. And apparently, the fucking entire town is at the bowling alley because we get a small riot as
Yeah.
everyone's just fleeing the bowling alley as the Blob does, in fact, show up and starts
Yep.
oozing through everything. Also, pretty coolly shot, not going to lie.
Yeah.
Like, pretty nice, pretty cool visual effects. Very
There was
old, like,
one
practical effects. I like it.
oh yeah, the effects in here are really cool. The one of the ones I really liked was where they kind of did it from the view of like um just right behind the blob rolling along towards people while they're running away from like the
Hmm.
camera. But it was very clearly like just a little like thing on like a rolling, just rolling in front of the camera.
So apparently, what they did was they got a red piece of latex and put it onto a beer keg, and then put the
Ah,
camera behind the beer keg and just had someone rolling the beer keg as they were kind of pushing behind the camera.
yes, I liked that. I
Yeah,
thought that looked good.
practical effects are fun. You get
Oh
real
yeah.
creative. That's why the best place to look for practical effects now, I would say now, is like theater, because you have the same thing. You have to get very
Oh yeah.
practical with how you can like hide things and make things happen,
Mm-hmm.
and still achieve what you're looking for without sacrificing anything. So
Totally.
yeah,
Yeah,
they
and I
kind of
mean, I'll say I'm fine with CG. I get it. It has
yeah
its play. It's necessary, but damn, do I love a practical effect.
yeah right. It's nice. So then we cut
Yeah.
back to the sheriff who's listening to the hippies explain the plot of the movie so far. He seems unmoved and uninterested. Same, bro.
Yeah.
Same. We cut back to the bowling alley. We see some more practical effects and some more kill effects as the Blob is just ingesting people galore. And like
Oh
I
yeah.
said, pretty. I love the practical effects of this movie.
Oh yeah.
They're very very fun. The sheriff finally shows up to the bowling alley, and he's going to save the day because we are in a world of trouble, as he says, and we wouldn't want that, right?
Yeah, no.
So the police in this movie show up, and you can clearly tell the police have no idea what the fuck they're doing because their immediate reaction is to just try to shoot it, and then they're like, "Well, that had no impact. I guess we're fucked."
I've tried one thing, and I'm all out of ideas.
Yeah, I tried my no ideas, and now I'm fucked. Well, the good news is Bobby is a man of science, so he is trying to discover the weakness of the blob, and finally, he comes across the weakness, which is once again the ice.
The ice, because it's him, Lisa, and that guy, the owner, who finally, like, he has been very much their antagonist this whole thing.
Yeah, they've been terrorizing him the whole movie.
They really have.
They keep running into him and knocking his shit down and destroying more of his stuff. Like, it's just like, y'all just leave him the fuck alone, guys.
Like, but at the end, they have to work together for survival. Like,
that's how you do it.
So that was pretty. I like that, at least. Like, when it all comes down to it, like, who cares about what we were doing? We need to survive. Like, I don't want you to die. So, So when they're all they're in this, like, I don't know, room, I guess, like it's
like the office of the bowling alley,
like the office, and they for, I guess, where the like for the ice rink, I guess, so that they
the ice rink is under construction, so
it's under construction,
they have this apparently this like ice mechanism that is like almost instantaneous apparently, which holy shit, that would be cool if that's possible, but that's not possible. Right? It's not a real thing.
It looked really cool.
It did.
But they had to climb up on top of the desk and stuff like that because the blob is coming under the door. It's coming in, and that's when he climbs up and he knocks over. He's getting on top of that fridge and knocks down everything that's in the fridge, and ice is in the fridge.
Ice baby.
And it immediately they see it, just work very automatically, like very quickly, like. And that's when they're like, now we know what to do.
Yes, the ice is what's going to save the world. If only.
And then you have, what are the cops doing, though?
The cops are going to burn the fucking place down because, we tried shooting it. That didn't work. What else do we have? Oh, fire. Let's burn it down.
Well, let's burn this motherfucker down. Boom.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Bobby has to enter action hero mode, and he has to basically parallel climb across a beam and a wire to get to the other side to activate the ice to stop the blob. And apparently the actor actually did his own stunt. There was a stunt guy on set, but the director was like, well, I think he can do it by himself. And he did. So, there you go.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. Hippies being hippies, I guess. He was just like, he'll be fine. He'll be fine.
He'll be fine.
So as Bobby is in the middle of climbing to the other side, the police are on the outside about to burn the building down. Bobby is able to make it to the other side and freeze the blob, and the blob immediately freezes it. And as the cop is outside, the sheriff is screaming about ladders being moved and people being moved. And he repeats that line over and over and over again. He's like, move those ladders, move those people. Hey, move those ladders. Tell those people to get back. Hey, will you move those? He just keeps doing that over and over and over again. And then
they got a shitload of ladders.
And then they got a shitload of ladders. And then for some reason, the scouts show up just for no reason.
Yeah.
They're just like, hey, we're in this movie still. And then it's like, all right. Thanks, kids.
Nobody had, I don't know, he had like a match or I don't know, something. And he hands them this lighter that
it doesn't work.
Chekhov's lighter.
It doesn't work. It's my favorite part of the movie. They hand him a lighter and he's like, thanks. And he's like, this doesn't work. And I just feel like that was not, I feel like that was obviously not in the script because there was no script. I feel like they just handed him a lighter and it didn't work. And he was just like, this doesn't work. And they just left it in and we're like, that'll work. That's fine.
That was so good. That's what I love about this movie, I guess.
That might be the input I put in this movie. I've been like instilling little clips from the movies, and that might be the clip I still. It's just him at the end being like,
absolutely.
This doesn't work.
This doesn't work.
It
may as well have just been the script.
It was just them
Just
burning the
looking at it,
script.
this doesn't work.
Fuck that. We don't need all this shit.
I'd like to get my hands on the script someday, actually. I'm
Whoever.
curious. It may have been rolled up and smoked, honestly.
He probably was, because the next thing that happens is Bobby literally runs in out of nowhere, and then just out of the corner of the movie, and just stops the police from burning it down.
Yeah.
Just grabs it. He's like, "No, fuck that. We're done with this." Like,
Yeah, he's like, no, come look, it's over.
let's get this stupid movie over with. God damn it! So he takes
and then more
he-
stupid shit happening.
and more stupid shit happens. Yeah, he leads the sheriff into the bowling alley with a camera crew to show them that, like, look, we defeated the Blob, and this is what leads to the end of the movie, because the sheriff gives this big long monologue about how, like, we just need to work together, and through mostly my determination, we were able to save this city and the world. And as he's giving this speech, one of the heat from the camera recording it melts the Blob, and it begins crawling up his leg, and then the movie ends with a question mark as the sheriff realizes that the Blob is attached to him. So
yeah, he just looks at the camera like with like, what?
yes, it's a very comical, a very comical look.
It looked like an ending to an episode of Batman back in the day, like the 66
yes,
Batman.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which a lot of these people were involved with. So there you go.
Hey, yeah. I liked that though.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, like, so we'll get to the end of the movie as we give our thoughts, and then we'll get to our ending here as we find out what we're gonna watch next week. So honestly, it's obviously some bad shit. Like the over reliance on cutting to the hippies just doing hippie shit, and then the cats just kind of doing cat things. None of that needed to be in the movie.
Yeah, no.
It's poorly aged in that respect, but
yeah,
it's also kind of fun to watch. It's very like loose filmmaking. It's very so bad it's good. It is very much so bad it's good. And it's a good little stupid B drive-in movie to throw on if you're wanting to watch something from the 70s that's kind of a little silly.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't take itself seriously, and I like that.
Not at all. Yeah, it does not take itself seriously at all. The exact opposite, in fact. Well, do you have any other thoughts about the movie before we move on to next week?
That really does. I think that sums it up for me as about it's just
sums it up.
It doesn't take itself seriously. It's just a fun, dumb little thing. I can see why people wouldn't watch it more than once. I probably will though.
Yeah, same. Well, I believe I hear the calls of Auntie coming to us from before, so we will we'll go to the end of the episode and find out what we're watching next week, and we will also be finding out what we're watching for episode 30, because that one's coming up too. So we'll see you guys at the end. See you in a minute. Bye.
Easy.
Blob, it creeps and leaps and glides and slides across the floor, right through the door and all around the wall. A splotch, be careful on the floor.
I hate hippies too. Yeah, we are spinning the wheel and making the deal as Auntie is calling to us. And so, Travis, do you have the D10 before you?
I do.
So I have redrawn our list of 10 here, mostly because I lost the previous list. So.
Oh, there you go.
That's a good reason. I didn't want to go back and listen to the last episode again and just find where that part where we say the list. This was also
write it all down.
And also, we have a lot of other movies that we could watch, and so let's mix it up a little, right? So let's bring some fresh meat to the table Auntie has for us. So here are 10 more movies for us to randomly choose from as we make our way through the month of February. We have End of the World from 2018. Sorry, a perfectly titled movie. There you go.
Yep.
No other movie ever called that one. 2017, we have Ocean's Rising.
Ooh.
From 2014, we have The Last Light. From 2011, we have Extinction, the GMO Chronicles.
Oh, Lord.
Don't know anything about that one.
No.
2006 brought us Solar Attack.
Good Lord.
1961, we got Battle of the Worlds.
Ooh.
1960, Mr. Roger Corman brought us The Last Woman on Earth.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go. 1978, Michael Caine, The Swarm.
Ooh, very cool.
I know Dom's rooting for that one.
Yeah, I bet.
1997, Space Truckers, Dennis Hopper.
Oh, hell yeah.
The movie that I'm rooting for.
Hell yeah.
And 1990, maybe the one our audience is rooting for, A Nymphoid Barbarian in Dinosaur Hell. There you go. So
Yeah.
I have mixed these up randomly on my little random number generator. You give
Right.
us a dice roll, and let's see what our future holds for us.
All right, spinning the wheel.
Let's spin the wheel. Let's make the deal.
I got 7.
7. 7 will get us The Swarm.
Awesome.
So I have never seen this movie. I have heard nothing but horrible things about it. And yeah, we will be staying with the 70s, jumping forward a couple years in 1978 as we watch The
right.
Swarm. And we're actually going to be doing a bonus episode next week because next week is episode 30. And if you're new to the show, every 10 episodes we do a little something different. And
Yeah.
so previously, episode 10, we talked about the Clerks TV show, not the
Yeah.
animated one, but the piece of
No.
shit Jim Brewer one that was made. Episode 20, we talked about what makes a bad movie good, and we reviewed some lists of bad movies from other authors and basically just shit on them.
Oh,
and
totally.
and gave them some praise. One of them we liked.
Yeah, we did. It was a give and take.
So episode 30, I think that we've decided that we are going to watch something that are going to bring us some joy in these times of triumph, of tragedy, and turmoil. And we are going to watch a movie that actually has not that old, but has some fun production history to it and is a lot of fun to watch. We're going to watch Hundreds of Beavers. If you've never seen this movie, it is streaming all over the place. And it's going to be a fun time, I think, as we celebrate 30 episodes of the podcast, as we get into Hundreds of Beavers. And we're also going to be watching The Swarm. So a little double dose of animal attack coming at us.
Yeah.
Beavers and well, we'll see what The Swarm has in mind. I feel like I know what creature it is, but maybe we don't want to spoil it quite yet.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know the creature on this one.
I think it's bees.
Oh, not the bees.
Not the motherfucking bees. No, not the bees. Not the bees.
Boy, you should have seen what happened to Mr. Engelman.
It's gonna be all right, son. Look, you boys get on back. Williams, get those boys back. All right, you people move out. The lighter don't work.